When my 5-year-old nephew asked why his mom sleeps in the basement, I called 911 before anyone else woke up. I was visiting my sister for the weekend. Her husband Mark was away on a business trip. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps. My nephew stood in my doorway clutching his teddy bear. "Why does Mom sleep in the basement?" he whispered. My blood ran cold. My sister's bedroom was upstairs right next to mine. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "Daddy says Mom likes it down there. She sleeps on the air mattress." I got up and checked my sister's room. Empty. Bed made like nobody had slept there in weeks. I went downstairs. The basement door was locked from the outside. There was a deadbolt I'd never seen before. "Does Daddy lock this door?" I asked him. He nodded. "Mommy's sleeping. We can't wake her up, or Daddy gets angry." I tried the handle. Locked tight. I looked at my nephew. His eyes were so innocent, so trusting, like this was perfectly normal to him. "When did Daddy put this lock on?" He shrugged. "Long time ago, before my birthday." His birthday was in March. It was now October. My hands were trembling as I searched for the key. I checked the kitchen drawers, the junk drawer, the key hooks near the garage door. Nothing. Then I remembered. Mark wore one of those keychain lanyards. Always had it on him. Even kept it on while sleeping. I went back to my nephew. "Where does Daddy keep his keys?" "In his truck, in the cup holder." The truck was in the driveway. I grabbed my jacket and went outside. It was freezing. The truck was unlocked because we lived in a safe neighborhood. What a joke. The keys were right there. 5 different keys on the ring. I tried them all on the basement door. The 4th one clicked. The basement light was off. I flipped the switch. My sister was on an air mattress in the corner. Thin blanket, no pillow. Empty water bottles lined up on the concrete floor. A bucket in the opposite corner. The smell hit me immediately. She looked up at me, and I'll never forget her face. Half relieved, half terrified. "Sarah," I whispered. She put her finger to her lips. "He's coming back tomorrow. Please don't make noise. He'll know you found me." I walked down the stairs. The basement was unfinished, cold. There was nothing down here except her mattress and those bottles, a stack of protein bars, a roll of toilet paper. How long? 5 months, she said. Her voice was raspy, quiet, like she'd forgotten how to speak at normal volume. 5 months. "Sarah, why didn't you?" "He has cameras. He watches from his phone. If I try to leave or make noise during the day, he knows. He comes home." She was shaking. "Last time I tried, he moved the bucket farther away. Said if I wanted to be difficult, I could live like an animal." I pulled out my phone. She grabbed my wrist. Her grip was weak but desperate. "He'll hurt you too. He'll hurt both of you. Please just go back upstairs and pretend you never saw this." "Sarah." "I'm serious. He told me what he'd do if anyone found out. He's not bluffing." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She'd lost at least 30 pounds. Her hair was matted. Her skin was pale gray. She had a bruise on her cheek that was yellowing at the edges. "Old?" "Not if he's in handcuffs first," I said. I dialed 911. She tried to grab the phone, but I stepped back. 911, what's your emergency?" "My brother-in-law is holding my sister captive in their basement. She's been down here for 5 months. We're at 847 Riverside Drive." Sarah started crying, not sad crying, panic crying. "He's going to kill us. He's going to kill all of us." "Mom, are you in immediate danger?" "No, he's out of town until tomorrow afternoon, but she needs help now." The operator kept me on the line, asked questions. How old was my sister? Was she injured? Could she walk? Did the husband have weapons? Yes. Hunting rifles in the garage. A handgun in his nightstand. Police arrived at 3:47 a.m. They brought paramedics. My sister couldn't stand up on her own. Her legs had atrophied. They had to carry her up the stairs. My nephew watched from the top of the staircase. He didn't understand why Mommy was crying, why the police were there, why the ambulance had flashing lights. Is Mommy sick? One officer knelt down next to him. "Your Mommy's going to be okay now. We're going to make sure she gets help." They took photos of the basement, the mattress, the bucket, the water bottles, everything. They asked Sarah questions. She could barely talk. Kept looking toward the front door like Mark was going to walk in any second. "He tracks my phone," she finally said. "He knows where I am at all times. If I left, he'd find me." They found her phone plugged in beside the mattress and took it as evidence. The detective said they'd been building a case against Mark for years. Neighbor calls, co-workers reporting bruises, but Sarah always covered for him. This time she couldn't. Mark came home to police cars, tried to run, and was tackled 3 blocks away. I was 8 months pregnant when my mother-in-law said, "The baby won't be getting your last name. Our family name carries more weight." We'd already completed the paperwork. I stared at the birth certificate documents on their dining room table. My name was scratched out entirely in red ink. Theirs was filled in with bold black marker. "What documents?" I managed to ask. My husband's mother, Linda, smiled like she just delivered good news. "The hospital pre-registration forms. We registered the baby as Morgan Caldwell. Our family founded this town in 1847. That name opens doors. It carries weight." My husband, Ryan, said nothing. Just sat there scrolling his phone like we were talking about the weather. "You can't just change someone else's baby's name. That's not legal." His sister, Nicole, spoke up from the couch. "Sweetheart, women take their husbands' names all the time. This baby needs a solid foundation. Your maiden name is, what was it? Something with an S." "It's my legal last name now. We didn't change our names when we got married." Nicole laughed. Oh, right, that whole modern arrangement. But this is different. This is about heritage. Grandpa Caldwell founded the lumber company. Uncle Mark's on the city council. Cousin Jennifer manages the credit union. When Morgan needs a reference letter, a scholarship, a job, that name will make a difference. Her name is going to be Morgan Sullivan. Linda's smile faded. We've already informed everyone at church. The nursery board, says Caldwell. It will be awkward to correct it now. I looked at Ryan. He finally looked up. They're just trying to be helpful. Why turn this into drama? I grabbed my bag and walked out. I drove directly to St. Mary's Medical Center. Waited 30 minutes to speak with someone in patient services. Opened my hospital portal on my phone. The representative typed for a moment. All right, I'm seeing your initial registration from July 22nd. Morgan Sullivan. Due date November 15th. She paused. Wait, there's a second submission from October 8th. Same due date, same patient ID, but the baby's surname is listed as Caldwell. Can someone just submit a fake form? Technically, it requires the mother's authorization, but occasionally family members submit documents thinking they're being helpful. We typically catch these during verification before delivery. I didn't submit that second form. Her demeanor shifted. Then we need to address this right away. Hold on one moment. She returned with her manager. They printed both submissions. The signature on the second form looked nothing like mine. I called my sister Emma. She's a family lawyer in Seattle. They did what? She said when I told her. Then she went silent. The concerning kind of silent. Stay right there. I'm calling the hospital's legal department now. She put me on hold. Returned 5 minutes later. Done. The hospital's deleting the fraudulent submission. They're creating an incident report. I'm emailing you a template for a police report. You need to file this today. A police report? Against my in-laws? Submitting false birth registration documents is identity fraud. This isn't a family argument. They forged your signature on an official document. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely drive to the police department. The officer processing my report was this older man who kept asking if I wanted to pursue charges. I just need it on record, I said. Ma'am, if someone forged your signature, that's criminal. We're required to investigate. My husband finally texted at 7:12 p.m. Mom's just excited about the grandkid. Why are you blowing this up? I sent back a picture of the police report number. He called right away. I sent it to voicemail. Nicole called next. You filed a police report against our mother over a misunderstanding? A misunderstanding is missing a text message. This is document forgery. It's about family unity. We were trying to give your daughter advantages you can't offer. I ended the call. Linda left a message at 10:30 p.m. crying about how she'd only tried to help, how she'd never been disrespected like this, how I was separating her from her grandchild. Ryan moved back to his parents' house the following day. Said I destroyed his family over some forms. My daughter arrived 3 weeks later. The hospital assigned security to my room. Only people on my authorization list could visit. Her birth certificate says exactly what I decided. Morgan Elizabeth Sullivan, the Caldwell sent an enormous flower display. White roses, orchids, the works. Easily $300. The card read, Welcome to the family, Morgan Caldwell. A nurse showed up at my door pushing a wheelchair and asked, Ready for your transport to surgery? I told her immediately that I wasn't having surgery. She held up a clipboard showing hospital forms with my name, date of birth, and a signature. I stared at the paperwork. My full name, address, and even my insurance policy number were spot on. This is a mistake, I insisted. I didn't schedule any procedure. The nurse tapped the paper. Gallbladder removal. You signed these consent forms 3 weeks ago, your pre-op appointment. My heart started pounding. My gallbladder is fine. I've never even been to this hospital. She pulled out her phone, zooming in on a digital copy of the consent form. The signature looked terrifyingly like my own. The handwriting was so close it made my skin crawl. That is not me, I said. Get your supervisor. She hesitated, then radioed for help. 10 minutes later, a hospital administrator arrived holding a tablet. She was already scrolling through medical records. Mr. Patterson, our system shows you have had 6 appointments in the last 8 months. She tilted the screen so I could see. Pre-op consultation, blood work, EKG, chest x-ray, anesthesia clearance, and surgery scheduling. Every single one had my name attached. None of that is mine, I said, my voice shaking. I work in construction. I've been on job sites out of town every day for the past year. Her expression shifted. Can you prove that? I grabbed my phone and started scrolling. On the date of this alleged pre-op, I was 200 miles away at a safety conference. I showed her the digital boarding pass. The timestamp read 6:47 a.m. Her face went pale. What about this one? She asked, pointing to the date of the blood work. I checked my calendar. I was in Philadelphia that week building a warehouse. I pulled up another flight receipt, then another. For 3 of the 6 dates, I wasn't even in the state. She stood up abruptly. I need to make calls. Don't go anywhere. 20 minutes later, she returned with 2 other administrators and a stack of printed documents. They sat at my kitchen table without asking. Mr. Patterson, we need copies of everything you just showed us. Travel records, receipts, all of it. Why? What is going on? One admin slid the papers across the table. These are the charges billed to your insurance so far. 6 appointments, surgery pre-authorization, and post-op care. I looked at the bottom line, $47,000. That's just what has been processed, she said quietly. The surgery itself was pre-authorized for $293,000. My hands went numb. Someone is using my identity for surgery. It appears so. Have you checked your credit? Do you have monitoring services? I shook my head. I never thought I needed it. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling our fraud team, and you need to file a police report immediately. This is massive identity theft. The next 3 hours were a blur. Police arrived. I gave statements and handed over every receipt and boarding pass I had. They took photos of my ID and fingerprints. The hospital's fraud investigator found the appointments were booked from 3 different phone numbers using a fake ID with my name but someone else's photo. How did they get my insurance info? I asked. We are working on that, the investigator said. 2 days later, the FBI called. They were tracking a medical identity theft ring across 4 states. My case matched their pattern perfectly. We think we know who's behind this, the agent said. Come to the field office tomorrow morning. At 9:00 a.m., they showed me surveillance photos spread across a table. It was a dark-haired woman in her 40s checking in as me at 3 different facilities. We arrested her this morning, the agent said. She was at Providence Medical Center, prepping for a procedure that would have cost $180,000. Using my name? Using your name. He slid a folder over. She's done this to 47 people. You're number 31. The total fraud value exceeds $4.2 million. She got 12 years in prison. Grandma banned me from going anywhere near railroad tracks after my brother was killed by a train. She has no idea I've been traveling the state by rail for months. I was 8 when my big brother died on the tracks near our house. Grandma moved in that same week and set one strictly enforced rule: stay at least 2 blocks away from any railway. There were no exceptions. She would drive the long way to school every morning just to avoid the crossings. She even tossed my brother's model train set while I was at school one day, saying it hurt too much to look at. I followed that rule without question until I was 16. Then I met Lucas in the library. He was a quiet guy who always had schedules spread out on his table. He told me his dad was a freight conductor. Lucas was obsessed with documenting every line in the state. He had a project mapping abandoned stations and photographing historic depots before they were demolished. One Tuesday, he showed me pictures of an old depot 90 miles north in Riverside. The architecture was incredible. Original stained glass, 1912 wooden benches, and hand-carved booths. It was scheduled for demolition in 2 months. He was taking the evening train that Saturday and invited me along. I couldn't get it out of my head. That Thursday, I lied and told Grandma I joined a study group at the library. She was just happy I was making friends and gave me $20 for snacks. Lucas and I caught the 6:15 northbound from Central Station. The second we started moving, something clicked. The rhythm of the tracks, the towns blurring by, the swaying cars. I felt closer to my brother than I had in 8 years. Lucas saw me crying but didn't say a word. He just handed me a notebook. We spent 3 hours photographing that depot. The stained glass cast colorful shadows across the waiting room. Lucas taught me how freight trains use specific horn patterns. I took hundreds of photos. We went every Saturday after that. Lucas taught me to identify engines by sound. I started my own logbook, noting routes, stations, and details most people miss. I noted how conductors waved, how the 8:40 eastbound was always 6 minutes late, and which stations kept their vintage signs. 3 months in, I knew the schedule better than Lucas. I knew which trains rode the smoothest and which routes had the best mountain views. Grandma still thought I was at the library. When she asked what we studied, I made up history projects. Then, last Wednesday, Grandma called at 3:00 p.m. She was sick and needed a prescription immediately. The pharmacy closed at 5:00, and she couldn't drive. I panicked. Lucas and I were heading north to Millbrook, 70 miles away. I told her I'd be home by 8:00 sharp. She asked why a 20-minute library trip would take 5 hours. I made up an excuse about dinner, but she just said okay in a flat voice that made my stomach drop. At 7:45, standing on the Millbrook platform, my heart stopped. I saw her car pull into the lot. She got out slowly with her cane and stared at me through the fence. The train arrived, but I couldn't move. She walked onto the platform and we stood there in silence. Finally, she grabbed my shoulders. "You're riding trains," she whispered. She broke down sobbing, a deep broken cry I hadn't even seen at the funeral. Shaking, I showed her my notebook, the stations, the photos, the schedules. "This is how I remember him," I said. "He loved trains. I'm not trying to forget him. I'm trying to understand what he loved." She stared at the pages for a long time. Finally, she looked up and asked which train we were catching home. "Now we ride together twice a month."